You know, every story, every idea, heck, every universe has to start somewhere. Today, we're going to dive into the very beginning of the 090 living philosophy from the Ad Maiora Foundation. We're talking about stage 0, the seed. It's this incredible point of pure, untapped potential that's born from absolute stillness. It seems like such a simple question, right? But if you really think about it, it's one of the deepest questions we can ask. Before the Big Bang, before your first thought this morning, before any action is ever taken, where does it all come from? Well, this philosophy suggests it all begins in a state of pure, quiet potential.
So what is stage 0, really? It's the absolute origin point. Now, it's described as a state of non-existence, but don't let that fool you. It's not empty at all. Just imagine this silent, timeless space that holds the blueprint for everything that has ever been or ever will be. All the possibilities are just waiting there.
The whole spirit of this stage is really captured in this ancient saying, all is Aditi. Aditi is this ancient Vedic idea, a symbol for the boundless, unmanifest source of everything. So in this framework, when we talk about Aditi, we're really talking about stage 0 itself. And what's so cool is how this idea of an infinite field connects ancient wisdom with what we're learning from modern science. What the Vedas called Aditi, a physicist might call the quantum vacuum or zero-point energy, this state that seems empty but is actually buzzing with pure potential. In Eastern philosophy, you might hear it called pure Brahman, the ultimate reality. They're all just different words, different signposts, all pointing to the very same fundamental source. And that brings us to this really powerful metaphor, the reservoir. Stage 0 isn't an empty void. It's a reservoir that's totally full of potential, and its real power comes from its stillness. It's only from that place of perfect calm that the energy for the whole cycle of life can really begin to flow.
Okay, but what does this actually feel like? I mean, how do we experience this kind of stillness in our day-to-day lives?
It's actually way more familiar than you might think. You know that tiny, silent pause right before a new thought pops into your head? That's it. Or that quiet space you can find between an inhale and an exhale? That's it too. It's a moment of just being before the impulse to do anything kicks in.
So in this state, everything is what you'd call latent. Your awareness, your impulses, your urge to act, they're all just resting, kind of like seeds in the soil during winter. There's zero pressure to do anything, just a quiet permission to be. And in that space, the hard edges of our own ego can start to soften and dissolve a little.
So what happens when those boundaries soften? Well, that's when we can start to tune in to a kind of infinite intelligence. By letting go of our own limited perspective, just for a moment, we can connect with this universal wisdom that's always there.
Now, we're not talking about loud, booming messages from the universe. The guidance you get from stage 0 is much more subtle. It comes as these little synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem to gently nudge you in the right direction. They're like quiet whispers from that infinite field. This all sounds really beautiful and profound, but how do we actually work with it? How can we consciously enter stage 0 instead of just accidentally falling into it? Well, the key is all in the practice of surrender.
And the guiding principle couldn't be simpler, but it's incredibly deep. Before you start anything new, your day, a big project, even a tricky conversation, the practice is to intentionally go back to this starting point, to start from 0.
This whole practice really stands on 3 main pillars. First, there's meditative immersion, where you intentionally rest in that quiet space of just being aware. Second, there's stillness and breath work, which are simple, practical ways to touch this state every single day. And third, and this might be the most important one, is cultivating a mindset of surrender, basically learning to trust the process.
So let's get practical with that daily practice. In the 090 framework, the morning routine, they call it the build cycle, starts right here at stage 0. The practice is super tangible. With your inhale, you imagine gathering potential and energy from that infinite field. And with your exhale, you just let go of anything stale or heavy that you don't need to carry with you. It's like hitting a reset button every morning. But really, when it comes down to it, this whole practice is an act of trust. It's about letting go of our own rigid plans and our need to control everything. It's about surrendering to the idea that there's a bigger, more natural timing to things, a larger rhythm that's already unfolding. So why is this so important? I mean, the goal isn't just to hang out in this quiet void forever, right? This pause, this stillness, has a really specific and critical purpose. It's all about preparing the ground for an awakening.
And this is where you see the real magic of the pause. Think about it. True, spontaneous creativity rarely comes from a mind that's already jam-packed and busy. It comes from emptiness. The stillness of stage 0 creates that perfect empty space, that vacuum, for something genuinely new to be born.
And you can really see the handoff happen here. Stage 0 is the still reservoir, full of potential, full of unmanifest knowledge. But that very stillness is what gives birth to stage 1, the flowing river of awareness and actual learning. What was unmanifest starts to bubble up as intuition.
See, by resting in the silence of stage 0, we're literally creating the perfect conditions for the next stage to begin. Intuition can just pop up seemingly out of nowhere. That part of us that's the quiet observer, the witness, starts to wake up. In a way, it's like that universal field of potential starts to become aware of itself, right through our own awareness.
And so, that brings this whole idea right back to you. That reservoir of potential exists inside you, right now, just underneath all the noise of daily life. The question this philosophy leaves us with is simple, but it's a powerful one. What could emerge from your own stillness?